How is it going, everybody? So, figured before I start watching some movies and getting videos out on Spiral from the Book of Saw, and two other ones that I'll leave a surprise. But figured I've been having so much fun doing these lists, and everybody knows that I'm a huge slasher fan, and that slashers are my favorite subgenre of horror. So I figure why not do a top X list for my favorite top 80 slashers. Now I knew 10 wasn't going to cut it, so I bumped it to 25. And because there were a lot of 80 slashers, and I got some honorable mentions as well. So let's dive into it. Hell Night from 1981 with Linda Blair. Also has what's his name? The guy who plays Axel in Friday the 13th Part 4, I want to say. Not Axel, Rob. Not Rob. It's so hard to remember all these names in all these movies. The guy who dies in the shower with Jason. He's not in the shower with Jason. He's in the shower. Jason kills him. That guy. So he's in Hell Night also. And I'm going to try to leave out all spoilers. So just in case people stumble upon this and they're not hardcore slasher fans, but they're looking for recommendations or something like that, so I don't want to ruin anything. So I'll try to keep it as vague as possible. But basically, this fraternity and sorority have to go to this house that has a famous reputation for murders that went on in there. Someone in the family went crazy and killed the rest of his family, and they all start to get picked off one by one. That's gonna be like the ending of each synopsis for all of these. Just letting you know, they get picked off one by one, like that's any slasher film. So Hell Night '81, fun flick. Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. Now this is a weird one, and it took me a few years to come around to it. But we have Aunt Cheryl, who is living with her nephew Billy, and it's kind of like a little Oedipus tale, and it touched on some taboo subjects for the '80s. And there's themes of incest, there's themes of rape, and so it's definitely a strange one. But Aunt Cheryl is visited by a delivery guy or something like that, and she ends up killing him because he was coming on to her, even though she was heavily coming on to him first. And Billy witnesses this, but then when questioned by the police, he basically takes no part in it. He wants nothing to do with it. So he just said that he came by and he saw exactly what the story and Cheryl's selling. So it's an interesting slasher flick for sure. It had some Psycho vibes to it a little bit, just because I guess the whole motherly figure son type thing, and there's not a lot of good kills. That's how I basically made this list, was just either how much fun I have watching them and how great the gore and kills and practical effects are. So those are the two things I took into heavy consideration. But definitely a fun time, Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, but definitely a strange one for sure. We have Halloween 6 from 95. I love Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. I always have. If I were to have my perfect cut of it, it would be probably the ending half hour or so, the last third act of the theatrical cut, and the rest of it, the producer's cut, like the first 2/3. But it gets a lot of shit, this movie. But I think Michael is brutal in this. And just the way it looks, it's a good looking movie. And it's a dark movie, man. For a Halloween movie, it's very, very dark. So, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Curtains, it has more of a giallo feel to it. And I think it's Canadian. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we have this production that this director is doing. And we have a bunch of females that come to this place to audition for the role of Audrey in this production, and they start getting picked off one by one, in this killer wearing this ugly hag mask, and the mask is creepy. Now, on my last rewatch of this, I always liked this movie, but when I covered it for the channel, I don't know, something dropped for me. Like, I just didn't care for it anywhere near as much as I remember all the previous times watching it. So I don't know if it was just like the state of mind I was in during that rewatch or something, but it's definitely still one to mention. It's definitely still one to check out if you haven't seen Curtain. So good one there. Slumber Party Massacre from 1982 with the Driller Killer. This movie and the rest of them, all three of the movies in the series, is, I believe, if I recall correctly, the first horror films, like, franchise to be written and directed all by women, which is awesome. And we have these friends that meet up after school and have a fucking slumber party. And there's this escaped mental patient on the loose, and he ends up picking them off one by one. That's going to get old fast. With a power drill. And there's some funny stuff in here. There's some decent kills in here. And I love the driller killer in this. And there's a scene at the beginning. I mean, it's called Slumber Party Massacre. There's a scene in the beginning that goes on for like 2 straight minutes in the showers of their school, where all the girls are just naked and lathering, rinsing themselves and passing the soap, and it's just titties galore all popping out the screen at you. What more can you want in a slasher movie? I mean, tits, kills, hot women. That's it. So, Slumber Party Massacre 1982, if you haven't seen that one. That's a fairly popular one, so most of you should have seen that. Alone in the Dark from 1982, with Donald Pleasance, directed by Jack Shoulder, who I am hoping to have on the channel really, really soon. He also directed Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, Wishmaster 2, and Arachnid, and a slew of others, but those are like my 3-4 favorites of his. But I've been corresponding back and forth with him, and I just emailed him. He told me to email him on the first of the month, so I emailed him on the second, and I'm hoping to lock in a date and time with him. So that would absolutely be fun. But Alone in the Dark has Donald Pleasance in it. What can you say about Donald Pleasance? And works at a mental institution, and then due to a power outage, the mental patients are free to roam wherever they want, and chaos ensues. So, great movie, Alone in the Dark. Sleepaway Camp from 1983. Now, this movie has to have, like, one of, if not the most shocking endings in a horror movie that no one saw coming. Like, nobody. I mean, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen Sleepaway Camp, get on that. Like, that one almost made the list, but excellent slasher movie, like, for sure. What's next here? Doom Asylum from 1987. This is more of a horror comedy, like a slasher comedy, but I adore this movie. Like, it is so cheesy, it is so badly acted, it's bad everything, like, like with a lot of these schlocky, cheesy 80s slashers. But it's just the humor works for me. Like, there's this story that these kids hear about this guy who, like, supposedly haunts this abandoned asylum. And they meet up with this group of girls, this girl band, they're like punk rockers and can't stand anybody on the planet, like most punk rock bands. And maybe the legend is a little more true than they thought. Yeah, great one though. So fun. It'll be very divisive if you haven't seen this movie. You'll either love it or you'll hate it. Like, that's basically how it's going to go with that one. So, Doom Asylum, 1987. Bloody Birthday from 1981. Now, this one I wasn't sure to put on the list. Now, there's a few things on here that I wasn't 100% on putting in, and I'll mention the reasons when I get to those. But Bloody Birthday, because I consider it more of a killer kid movie than a slasher. But it's always labeled a slasher. Everywhere you look it up or see it, it's slasher. And from what year was it? 1980? Yeah, 81. Always marketed as a slasher film. So we have these 3 kids who were all born at the same time during an eclipse. And then, like 10 years later, when they're around 10, they are. I feel like I didn't have to say that. Like, if they were born during an eclipse and the 10 years went by, of course they're 10 years old, but whatever. And turns out that there's something evil about these children, and they kind of go on a neighborhood killing spree. Like, great Killer Kid movie, fun. So, Bloody Birthday from 1981. And as usual with these lists, I will put in the description links to all of my spoiler discussions for any of these movies that I covered, which is a decent amount with slasher movies. So look forward to that too. You can dive into JT's back catalog. That's Bloody Birthday 81. Return to Horror High from 1987. Now this has been advertised like in recent years, like with George Clooney, like and getting like head billing. He's in it for 4 minutes, maybe 4 or 5 minutes tops as a security guard. That's it. So don't go in here thinking, young George Clooney in a horror movie. No, like he's there for 3-4 minutes and gets killed. But we have this high school that's putting on, they're trying to shoot this horror movie about actual events, a murder spree that happened in their school a few years prior. But their horror film that they're shooting ends up getting disrupted by a mysterious killer. So there's a few layers to this movie. The first time I saw this movie, I was confused as shit. Like, I was like, wait, is this like back then, the original thing, or this is like the now? And it's very layered and confusing, but it's a fun one, like, for sure. So, and it also has Marsha Brady. Why can't I think of her name? I don't know, but Marsha Brady is in this also. So, Return to Horror High, 1987. Maniac Cop from 1988 with Tom Atkins, Bruce Campbell. And who hasn't seen Maniac Cop? And Maniac Cop 2 is even better, but it's 1990, so it doesn't qualify for this. But we have this cop. It's also directed by William Lustig, who did Maniac, which is definitely you're gonna hear in this video. But we have this cop who was killed and basically comes back to life as like a zombie cop and goes around taking revenge out on those who killed him. Simple, short, sweet. That's all you need. Great, fun movie, Maniac Cop. Lucio Fulci's Murder Rock. Now, this is where one of the things I wasn't sure of creeps in. I wasn't sure whether to include some of the Italian horror movies on here because they're more technically giallos than slashers, but once it hit like the 80s and stuff, like giallos and slashers were pretty much like combined. Like at that point, like there was very little difference besides the fact that giallo's always been with more of a murder mystery and who's killing all these people, and slashers are more of just a faceless killer and stuff like that, or a supernatural killer. Like, but they're basically the same, so I'm including them. Murder Rock from Lucio Fulci, 1984. This is a real fun one, and it's so 80s. Like, so 80s. It takes place in a dance studio, and guy comes around and starts killing these women one by one, and I like the way that he kills them. It's a very unique way to kill somebody. I'll put it like that. But yeah, awesome film, and it's Fulci. So I mean, what the fuck? I mean, get into Lucio Fulci if you're not into his films. But and I will definitely be talking about this movie this month as I do some Fulci films. Like, absolutely. So Murder Rock, 1984. Fade to Black from 1980. This is another one that I don't consider it a full-on slasher. It's more of a character study. But everywhere you go, again, it's referred to as a slasher film, and it's such a great movie, I figure why not just mention it. So Fade to Black is about this young cinephile who's just obsessed with the old movies and like the golden age of Hollywood, and he lives with his unbearing aunt, and he's in a wheelchair, and he ends up getting fed up one day and just killing her. And he starts recreating and quoting lines from his favorite movies. Now, just for Dennis Christopher's performance in this movie alone, you should check this movie out. I know it's on Amazon Prime. I think maybe Shudder. Probably on Tubi too, like knowing how great Tubi is with horror selections. But such a great movie, and like I said, just for Christopher's performance alone, it's a fantastic movie. It's actually the second movie that I ever covered on the channel, my second video. So some nostalgia there. But Fade to Black, 1980. And then last honorable mention, Night of the Demon from 1980. Now, not Night of the Demons, the more popular film that everyone knows, which is a classic too, but Night of the Demon. Now, this is like a slasher mixed with a murderous Bigfoot. Yes, that's right. This is a Bigfoot slasher movie. And basically, people go off into the woods to look for Bigfoot. They find him, and you get somebody's dick gets ripped off by Bigfoot. What more do you need? So those are the honorable mentions. I'll recap them quick. Hell Night, Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, Halloween 6, Curtains, Slumber Party Massacre, Alone in the Dark, Sleepaway Camp, Doom Asylum, Bloody Birthday, Return to Horror High, Maniac Cop, Murder Rock by Lucio Fulci, Fade to Black, and Night of the Demon. So let's get into the actual list. Starting... Oh, that's right. You guys are in for some news, except you're not because you saw the title already. But I even had to bump it from 25 to 30. So you're getting the top 30 slasher films. But you already knew that because you saw the title. So no cheating next time. Alright, number 30. 1981's... 81? 86. I don't know why that 6 looked like a 1. It was typed out and shit, so... I don't know. Bloodhook from 1986. This is like as low budget and cheap and cheesy as you can get. But it's so much fun. Like, this is such a fun movie with a very original reason for the killer killing and doing what he does. And just a way of killing that you never see in a movie. We have this town that has a fishing competition called Muskie Madness every year. And everyone's fishing for like all weekend or a week or something like that. And this was actually directed by one of the creators of Mystery Science Theater 3000. So it makes sense when you know that. It makes a little more sense. And this killer is on the loose who is killing people by fishing hook. Well, fishing pole with a hook on it. That you heard that right. He is fishing for human beings, basically. It sounds just as ridiculous as it is. Like, it's just as insane as the description I just gave you. But what a fun movie, man. Like, Muskie Madness. Like, awesome. Such a fun slasher film that is relatively unheard of. So, I believe it's on Peacock, I want to say. It's streaming somewhere, I know that. I want to say Peacock. For some reason. Like, that blew my mind when I saw it on there. So, if you haven't seen Bloodhook 1986, check it out if you just want a cheese fest. Just insanely crazy and stupid, but hilarious slasher film. Alright, next one. Number 29 is Absurd from 1981. Now, this is basically a Halloween ripoff. Like, heavily. Like, even the theme music in this sounds just like John Carpenter's theme for Halloween. Like, the same type of fast synthesizer piano and stuff like that. The killer, though he doesn't wear a mask, like, you know who he is from the beginning, is like super strength or like borderline, like, yeah, super strength. They did like an experiment on him. But it's like he won't die, just like Michael Myers. So, I mean, it's very Halloween-esque. But the kills in this movie are fantastic. Like, absolutely fantastic. Won't spoil them, but it's on Netflix. Netflix would never have a movie like Absurd on there. It is on Tubi. So, my Brit friends, you guys are shit out of luck. But for those who don't know, they don't have Tubi in Britain. For some reason, in the United Kingdom. It's why it sucks to be British. So happy to live in America, USA, US. But check out on Tubi, Absurd from 1981. Like, a lot of fun with just the kills alone. Number 28 is A Blade in the Dark by Lamberto Bava from 1983. Now, this is, like I said, another example of giallo, but I'm throwing some giallos on here because they're basically the same thing. Ever since Mario Bava's A Bay of Blood in 1971, which in my opinion is the film that shaped and molded what would turn into the slasher genre, basically. That Mario Bava is one of the greatest Italian filmmakers of all time and one of my favorite horror directors of all time. And he basically created what would become the slasher genre with The Bay of Blood, or aka Twitch of the Death Nerve, which is such a better title than A Bay of Blood, man. Like, that's one of the greatest titles for a horror movie ever. Twitch of the Death Nerve? Fantastic. But A Blade in the Dark is by his son Lamberto Bava, and the main character is a film score composer, and he's being stalked and sought after to be killed by a mysterious person. It's the best way to put it. So, A Blade in the Dark, 1983. I believe it's on Tubi. Number 27, 1988's Halloween 4. Now, I left Halloween 6 in honorable mentions because Halloween, as most of you know, John Carpenter's was the first horror movie I ever saw, which is what I gotta finish tonight. Spiral from the Book of Saw to end that franchise. But first movie I ever saw, John Carpenter's Halloween, on Halloween night at 5-6 years old. So it is in my top 3 films of all time. The franchise as a whole is all over the place, and it's not my favorite franchise by a long shot. But my favorite sequel in the Halloween franchise is Season of the Witch, Halloween 3, what have you. And then Halloween 4 is right after that. And then 6, and then the rest kind of all just all over the place. But this has, I think, besides Season of the Witch, all the Michael Myers movies, which is the rest of them, I think has the most Halloween feel to it and atmosphere. And I mean, like Halloween the holiday. It just, you could feel just the autumn like coming at you out of the screen in this movie. And Michael looks pretty decent in this. I mean, the mask isn't great. It's nowhere near as bad as 5. But my third favorite in the Halloween franchise. And just the fact that this is a very dark film too. Like, the atmosphere is a very dark atmosphere and feel to this movie. Like, even the daytime shots feel dark and ominous. And I love that about this movie. So Halloween 4 at number 27. 27? 27. Alright, after number 27, we have number 20. Did I leave one off? Is that what happened here? Alright, one is missing from the list, so we're going to 25. 25, Nightmare Beach, aka Welcome to Spring Break, from 1989. Now, it's credited here that Umberto Lenzi directed this, and there's 2 directors' names, Umberto Lenzi and some other guy. Some other guy. But Lenzi actually didn't direct pretty much most of this. In fact, he ended up having some type of issue and he was going to leave, and the other director who directed this whole film ended up getting Lenzi to stay there for the entire production and just like oversee things, basically. So it's not a Lenzi film, technically, but we have Where People Are Going to Spring Break. We have John Saxon in here, which is always great to see. And we have a killer with a motorcycle that he uses to electrocute his victims to death. What more can you say? I believe this is on YouTube, because I remember last watching it, the last rewatch I did of it a few years ago, but it was on YouTube. So I'm pretty sure you can still find it on there. But Number 25, because number 26 mysteriously disappeared, is Nightmare Beach or Welcome to Spring Break, 1989. Number 24, 1981's Happy Birthday to Me. Now, this has Melissa Sue Anderson from Little House on the Prairie, and everybody will remember the VHS box with the guy getting the shish kebab skewer through the mouth. And it's even one of the taglines is like some of the 6 of the most like bizarre murders you'll ever see. Like the kills are all right in this movie. They're not great. Like I wish there was more gore in this movie. A lot of the kills are goreless, just some blood and stuff like that. But it's a fun movie, like for sure, with one of the stupidest fucking endings. Like. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But it's definitely a fun one. So get in there. I believe that's on Tubi also. A lot of these are on Tubi. Like a lot of them. So check it out on Tubi. Happy Birthday to Me from 1981. Alright, number 23 is Stage Fright by Michael Suavi from 1987. Now, this is a fun movie, man. And the mask that the killer wears, it's like this giant owl mask, looks awesome. Like, I love the owl mask in here, but I remember saying that it is kind of stupid at the same time, and that I wish they took the hag mask from Curtains and had that in this movie instead of the owl mask. That would have been so much better. Like, take everything that's the same in this movie, but just switch the owl mask for the hag mask. And I think that would have been the icing on the cake for this movie. But it's about this director of a musical who they're in this studio practicing for their musical, which they never practice in this movie. They practice maybe like 10 minutes of this whole movie. And they start getting picked off one by one by this killer in this owl mask. It's Italian director Michael Suave, who's done so many great films. The Church, Cemetery Man, it goes on. But this might be my favorite film by him. And again, it's giallo, but this one has more slasher than giallo, I would say. But it definitely has giallo feels to it. But check it out. Stage Fright, 1987, on Tubi. Number 22, My Bloody Valentine from 1981. The film that I was supposed to do a video on for Valentine's Day. And the remake. But I had COVID, wasn't able to do it. Or it was right before I did, or something like that. I just didn't get around to it. There's always next year. Or there's always just don't do it on fucking Valentine's Day like everybody else. Just do it in friggin' July and throw everybody off. But this is a fairly popular slasher film. It's never been a favorite of mine, which is why it's so low on the list here. But a lot of that had to do with the kills. Like, this movie was very, very heavily censored and cut when it was released. We just got the uncut kills on some Blu-ray or DVD release that edited them back into the movie, and I've seen the kills online and stuff, and they look so much better. So, I mean, it goes up in my book just for that. But we have this town of Valentine Bluff, where Valentine's Day is a huge thing there, and they have a mine nearby, like a mining town. And an accident happened in the mine collapsed, and now in the present day, we have a killer in mining gear, which is awesome look for the killer in this. And mostly uses like a pickaxe, but uses some other things. But classic slasher film. If you haven't seen My Bloody Valentine, I believe it's on Peacock. Probably Tubi also. I'm just going to keep mentioning Tubi. They should be paying me between all the times I do a video of a movie that's on Tubi, and I cover the commercials even for you guys. I give you the full experience. They should be paying me for advertising Tubi so much. But should be on there. Number 21, April Fool's Day from 1986. Now we have Amy Steele in here, who played Ginny, obviously, in Friday the 13th Part 2. It's like my second favorite final girl in that whole series. And this is definitely a fun watch. The only thing I feel it suffers from is once you see it once, you can't really watch it as enjoyably again. I'm not going to say any more than that. These friends on April Fool's Day or weekend go to their friend Muffy's house and hang out there, partying and everything like that. And they start getting killed left and right. So if you haven't seen April Fool's Day, check it out. I'm not sure where it's streaming, but try to be. Number 20, Motel Hell from 1980. This was another one I wasn't so sure of putting on here, but it's always categorized as a slasher film. I just don't see it as a full-on slasher film. But Motel Hell is about the motel hello, but the O went dark in the sign, so it's Motel Hell. And it takes all kinds of critters to make Farmer Vincent's fritters. We have Farmer Vincent and his sister, and he makes fritters and other stuff, but those are like what he's known for. And he's basically kidnapping people and that stay at his place or come by through town and planting them in the ground like cabbage until they're nice and ready to be cooked into food. Awesome. Like, it's such a hilarious movie. It is a more horror comedy, slasher comedy, but great lines in this movie. There's some great acting by I forgot who his name is, the guy who plays Farmer Vincent, and just a grand old time, man. Check out Motel Hell if you haven't seen it. Definitely will be one of the weirder slashers that you've ever seen. So Motel Hell at number 20, 1980. 19. Am I reading that right or no? Yes, 19. The Funhouse by Tobe Hooper from 1981. Another great film here. Another one I don't consider a full-on slasher, but always falls in that category. But it is a little bit. I'd say it's a little more slasher than Motel Hell is for sure. But this group of friends, these two couples, go to a amusement park and they end up spying on these people in a fortune-telling booth. And they end up getting locked in overnight in the funhouse. And just the whole look of the attacker, is the best word, I guess, in this movie, looks fantastic. He wears a Frankenstein mask, but there's more to it. So Tobe Hooper's The Funhouse, underrated Tobe Hooper movie, and just a lot of fun with the whole amusement park or fair. I think it is, yeah, it's a fair. Like the whole fair aesthetic and everything. Great movie. So Funhouse, 1981, number 19. Number 18, Buddy Cooper's The Mutilator. I don't know where that came from. 1984. Now, this is actually getting a sequel. 40 years past when it came out. Like, a standalone slasher film from the 80s. A cheap-budgeted, terrible in almost every way slasher film is getting a sequel, The Mutilator 2, 40 years or so later. I never would have thought that I'd see The Mutilator 2 coming out. Directed and written by Buddy Cooper, by the same director and writer of the first movie. Now, this was a very low-budget movie. You could see even in the credits, like, everyone's last name is Cooper. Like, everyone in family and stuff helped him out with this movie. But the acting is terrible. It's cheesy as can be. The dialogue is bad. So, Justin, why put this on the list? The kills, man. The kills in this movie are so fucking fantastic. Like, the practical effects work looks beautiful on this. The kills look so good. And my boy Dave, like, he reviewed it a while back and thought it was terrible. I could see that. Because, like I said, it's terrible. Yeah, it is. But like a lot of 80s slashers that are so bad they're good, this is just elevated from that with the kills. Like, it's all about the kills in this movie. So if you want to see some great practical effects work and some gnarly looking kills, this is the movie for you. So, The Mutilator from 1984. Look out for The Mutilator 2 coming out, I think, at the end of the year or something like that. We're supposed to get it. They don't have a release date yet, but zero expectations. Number 17. Now, remember why I said Slumber Party Massacre almost made the list? That's because Slumber Party Massacre 2 from 1987 is better for me. Which is, I know so many people that hate this movie, that hate this sequel. I absolutely adore it. And I don't know if I've told him, I've said in videos, my friend Jason at Sinister Cinema Reviews, he also adores this movie. And I think he said once that, like, his number one, maybe it was like top 3 or something, but I think pretty sure he said his number one prop from a horror movie that he'd kill to have, like if he hit the lottery or something, would be the guitar with the drill on the end of it that the killer uses in this movie. Me too. Not number one, but it's in my top 5 props that I would kill to have from a horror movie. Like, just as a guitarist, and just how fucking awesome it looks. We have the driller killer back in here, but it's a totally different guy. This has a lot more Nightmare on Elm Street vibes to it, because it's like dream stuff going on, and you don't know what's real and what's like really happening in reality and stuff like that. But it's so much fun, and the music numbers, and yeah, that's right, musical numbers that are in this movie are hilariously awesome. Like, I find myself singing them every now and then, like, especially if I just recently saw the movie. But like Tokyo Convertible, I wanna be your Tokyo Convertible. And dude, the music numbers are so good in this movie. And basically we have the younger sister from the main chick from the first Slumber Party Massacre, and her sister, the older one, she is in a mental institution after what happened from the first movie. And the younger sister is having a lot of issues and dealing with what happened. And she goes on this little weekend with 3 of her friends, two of which are Friday the 13th alumni girls. One was in Friday 5, the redhead, and one would be in the next Friday after this movie came out, which was, I want to say 7 or 8 she's in. So we have 2 Friday the 13th girls in this movie, and they go there for the weekend to like one of their family's places, and they have a band, and they start, the main chick, the sister, ends up dreaming about this guy, this driller killer, who just dresses in all like black leather and grease hair. He looks like a greaser. Like, such an insane movie. So many things that don't make sense, and I don't care, because it is just, I adore it. I adore this movie. So if you haven't seen Slumber Party Massacre 2, I know that's on Tubi. Check it out. Slumber Party Massacre 2 from 1987. Number 16. Friday the 13th Part 2 from 1981. Now, this is my second favorite Friday movie. And I've always liked Sackhead Jason, man. I don't know if I like it better than the hockey mask, but I've always liked that look of him in Part 2. And again, with Amy Steele as Ginny, and again, one of my favorite final girls, like my second favorite. And I mean, what more can you say about it? If anything, check out my spoiler discussion on this one or on the whole Friday series. I have a playlist for all the franchises I've covered so far, but total classic. So Friday the 13th Part 2, number 15, halfway through it. And apologies, it's getting a little longer than I thought it would be. Like, this is by far the longest list, but it is the longest literal list that I've done. The top 30s here with honorable mentions. So, number 15, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 from 1986. I adore this movie. It is my favorite in the whole franchise. Yes, you heard that right. I like it more than the original Texas Chainsaw. Bill Moseley as Chop Top in this movie is fantastic. Like, absolutely fantastic character and performance. And we have Caroline Williams as Stretch, and basically, and we have, what's his name? Why can't I think of him? Dennis Hopper as the sheriff here, or he was retired sheriff. And we have the great Tom Savini doing the effects in this movie, which look fantastic, per usual. If you haven't seen my top 10 horror films with special effects by Tom Savini video, my list on that, I'll link it at the end of here. I'll have the video pop up. But, yeah, my favorite in this whole series. Like, just, it's over the top. It's much more wacky and comedic, but the effects look great, and it's just a riot, man. Like, this whole movie is just so much fun. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 might be on Tubi. Number 14, Child's Play from 1988, the year I was born. Now, who really needs a fucking synopsis for Child's Play? We have Andy, who's like a 6-year-old boy, and his mom. Father passed away. So it's just the two of them, and he's obsessed with this Good Guy line of products, and his mom ends up getting him a Good Guy doll for his birthday, which is possessed by the soul of a serial killer, Charles Lee Ray. That's all you gotta say. I shouldn't have even had to say that. Just the birth of Chucky in this movie, and one of my favorite franchises in horror also. Loved every entry in Child's Play. Like, adore this whole series, which is why it was a shame that I didn't finish it, but I only got like 4 or 5 episodes into season 2 of Chucky, and it just wasn't working for me, man. And like, it was really disappointing, because it's like, this is one of my favorite franchises. Like, everything that Don Mancini touches turns to gold, and it just wasn't working for me. So I got to rewatch the whole second season and give a definitive opinion on it. Hopefully I come around to it, because I would love to like it much more than I was digging it for the first 4 or 5 episodes. Because I want to like it. I mean, I don't want this season of this TV series, which the first season was excellent. I don't want that to be the reason that this went from a perfect franchise for me with no bad installments to, dropping a little bit. But I have to watch it all again and finish it until I can give my opinion on that. But Child's Play, 1988, awesome movie, an absolute classic. Who hasn't seen Child's Play? Number 13, and this was another one that I was unsure to put on this, because some places online and stuff say 1979, and some say 1980. I've always grouped this one in with my favorite 80s slashers, just because, fuck you, 1979. If part of you is going to say that it's 1980, I'm going with 1980, just so I can lump it in. But also not your traditional slasher. This has a lot of Psycho vibes in it, just like Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker, but even more so, like very Psycho-esque. But it's its own thing for sure. Like, don't be thinking, oh, it's a Psycho remake or a Psycho ripoff is what I meant to say. Like, no. Like, and what he uses, Donnie, the main character here, is he was brought up by his mother, who used to abuse him and burn him over the stove to get the impureness out of him, and she was very religious and everything, and so he had a very fucked up childhood and was still living with his mother until she passes at the beginning of the movie, and he has complete freedom for the first time in his life and doesn't know what to do, and he starts going a little crazy. And man, the way he kills his victims in this movie is just fucking evil. Like, evil, man. Like, awesome. So check out, if you haven't seen Don't Go in the House. That is definitely on Tubi. 1980 for all intents and purposes in here, but awesome film. Number 12 from 1987, we have Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers. This is a film I love to death. My favorite in the Sleepaway Camp series, yes, more than the original. I adore this movie. I mean, yeah, we don't have Felissa Rose here. For 2 and 3, we had Bruce Springsteen's sister, Pamela Springsteen, play Angela. And for me, she absolutely kills it. Like, what a great performance she gives in these two movies. But particularly in 2, we also have, what the hell's her name? Renee Estevez, who I had such a big crush on from this movie growing up. Like, a huge crush, as well as her role in another movie that'll be a little higher up on the list. But I love this movie. There's nothing I do not like about this movie. I think I talked about it for like 50 minutes, like early on in the channel. But we have another sleepaway camp, that summer camp that these people go to, and Angela is working at this one, and people start to die left and right. So, Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Because I'm a happy camper. Don't forget the hand signals. Number 11. There you go. 11. Lucio Fulci's The New York Ripper from 1982. Like, this is Lucio Fulci at his most sleaziness. A lot of people say this is the most Fulci of Fulci films. I don't really agree with that, but it's definitely the most sleazy. So we basically have a killer in New York who is going around violently killing women and who talks like a duck. Yeah, you heard that right. He talks and quacks like a duck. All you need to know. So Lucio Fulci's New York Ripper, that is on Tubi. Definitely check it out, especially if you're an Italian horror fan. For some reason you haven't seen New York Ripper. Great, great movie. Now we are in the top 10 we're heading into here. Anyone want to take some guesses of what's going to be on this top 10 of mine? Nah, that one we already talked about. Nope, good one though. I'm just going to go through it. Number 10, we have Dario Argento's Tenebrae from 1982. It's in my top 3 Argento films. Just his return to Giallo after Suspiria, Inferno, which is more supernatural, and just fantastic. Everything in this movie is a near masterpiece. Like, absolutely brilliant. And a lot of this film differing from Inferno and Suspiria that came before it. Gone are most of the colored lighting and stuff that Argento was heavily known for in the 70s. But there's a lot of the color white throughout this movie. It almost feels like a police procedural or something like that. But we get some excellent kills in here as well. And this is pretty much a full-on giallo. But like I said, I don't give a fuck. They're going on the list. They're so similar. That you have your gloved killer with the razor blade. So straight up giallo. One of the best giallo films ever made, in my opinion. So Tenebrae from 82. Check it out. Number 9. A Nightmare on Elm Street. Part 2. Freddy's Revenge from 85. That's right, you heard me. Part 2. What, bitches? Yeah, it's my favorite in the franchise. I absolutely adore this movie. It has my favorite everything in the franchise. It has my favorite Freddy, by far. I think he is the most evil-looking and most dark Freddy that we get in this whole franchise before you start going off with the stupid one-liners, like, heavily in, like, 4, 5, and 6. But everything in this movie I adore. Just, it has my favorite practical effect in the series. It has my favorite line in the series with the "You're all my children now," with the fire behind him. That's my favorite shot in the series. Practical effect I'm not going to mention just in case people haven't seen this movie for some odd reason. But the whole gay undertone thing, fuck you. If that's the only reason you don't like this movie, I'm saying if that's the only reason, like, that movie's gay, you're a prick. Like, as simple as that. Like, you're an asshole. Like, give the movie a chance. Like, put the gay stuff aside. Mark Patton, was it Mark or Mike? Patton was in the closet homosexual still when they were filming this. So I guess some of it came across, in the film. Who cares? This film is fantastic, and it's the best one for me in the franchise. So A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, at the number 9 spot. Number 8, Psycho 2 from 1983. Again, not a full-on traditional slasher, but it gets lumped in there. I mean, Psycho is cited so often as being one of the biggest influences on the slasher genre, which Psycho, the first one, is not a slasher film to me, like, at all. But I just did an hour-long deep dive on the first Psycho. I'll be getting to the rest soon. And I think this is one of the greatest sequels in horror. Like, one of the best sequels ever made. Like, it feels like it belongs in the Psycho universe. Like, none of it feels forced. It feels organic. It feels like this is where Norman Bates' story would continue after he gets out of a mental institution, which is basically the plot of the movie. And we have Anthony Perkins back, obviously, as Norman Bates. We have Megan Tilly, Jennifer Tilly's sister, in this. And I like her performance. Anthony Perkins kills it, like, as expected. And Vera Miles returns from the original Psycho as Lila Crane. And just a fantastic sequel in every way. Norman Bates gets released after, 23 years from the mental institution he was in, and returns home. And then he starts getting phone calls from his mother. Dun dun dun! Number 7. I have to drop my vape for you guys. Maniac by William Lustig from 1980. What a fantastic movie. What a sleazy movie. Just it takes place in New York City, just in 1980, late 70s, early 80s, when it was just disgusting in New York. Bums and junkies everywhere in every alley, and burning barrels and shit, like, all over the place before Giuliani and stuff helped clean up the whole city. But what a great, great classic slasher movie. We have Frank, played by Joe Spinell, who gives a fantastic performance in this movie. And he has some mother issues, to say the least. And he goes around killing women and collecting their scalps to take home and put on his mannequins. Awesome. The effects by the great Tom Savini. He's showing up a decent amount on this list. And for some reason, if you haven't seen Maniac, it was my slasher rec for the week. I posted on I'm going to start doing that too every week. I'm going to be posting a slasher pick for the week, a found footage recommendation for the week, and a creature feature monster movie for the week. So on the community tab on the channel, you'll see that. But such a fun movie. Like, and a sick movie. Like, you feel like you want to shower after this movie. But check it out if you haven't seen it, and absolutely check out if you have seen it, or if you decide to watch it for the first time. Either way, afterwards, watch the remake, Maniac from 2012 with Elijah Wood. One of the greatest remakes ever made. Like, not just horror, ever. Like, any genre of film, for me. It's an absolute work of art. Do I like it more than this one? No. I put them basically right neck and neck with each other because they are very different, even though it follows pretty much the exact same story for the most part. But check out both of them. That's my little non-80s plug I'm throwing in here. Maniac from 2012. I also put that as a second slasher rec, since it was the remake of the first slasher recommendation I put up for the week. So, Maniac from 1980. Number 6, 1981's The Burning, which I know my boy Dave at Savage Zombie Reviews, which if you are not subscribed to him, please go over and check out his content and subscribe. He's a great friend of mine, and he's just an absolutely amazing person. Like, will go out of his way and for anybody he cares about and anybody in general, really. Just one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. I love you, bro. But go to his channel, please subscribe. Like, he has amazing reviews, he does great content. I laugh hysterically and just love every single review he puts out. But I know you love this movie, Dave. But The Burning, man, 1981, we have Savini again here doing effects work, and it's the tale of Cropsey, which originated from an actual like campfire story they used to tell in like upstate New York. And this guy was like a drunken caretaker for a camp, a summer camp, and these kids play a prank on him, which results in him almost burning alive, but he survives. And he's just severely burnt, like all over. And he goes and tries to take revenge on the kids at the summer camp for what happened to him a few years later. Awesome movie. Like, a little slow at times, I will give it that, but the kills are great in here, and one scene in particular is just infamous from this movie. Like, if you've seen it, you know. But we have Jason Alexander, George from Seinfeld, in this movie. Like, he's hilarious even in that. Like, back then. Like, you see him in this movie, you could tell that he was going to become a star one day. He's just so naturally funny, like, from the beginning. And we have Holly Hunt in here. We have the guy who plays Ratner in Fast Times from Ridgemont High. So there's a good little cast here. And there's another guy, I can't remember his name, but just awesome, awesome slasher film. So The Burning at number 6. Now the top 5 is here, guys. What do you think? Put some guesses in the chat or something. Wait, there's no chat. It's not live. Oh, well, maybe I'll make it a premiere, like I did with some of these. So there will be a chat. What are you talking about, JT? Anyone? It's a good guess. That's just fucking move on with. Number 5, Intruder from 1989. Now this has Renee Estevez, who I said from Sleepaway Camp 2, I had a huge crush on because of these two movies. This is like a Grateful Dead. I am a huge Grateful Dead fan, so it makes sense. This is a huge Evil Dead 2 reunion here. We have Dan Hicks in here, who's from Evil Dead 2. We have Scott Spiegel directing this, who co-wrote Evil Dead 2 with Sam Raimi. We have Sam Raimi and Ted Raimi in this movie. They don't have major roles, but they get their own death scenes and stuff, so it's cool to see that. And we have Bruce Campbell for all of 45 seconds at the end of the movie. And this is another thing, in another movie that they like to advertise nowadays on the DVDs or Blu-rays, is Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell. Like, and I mean, they're not the stars of this movie, but the kills in this movie are fucking excellent. Excellent. So much so that this has not just one, but 2 of my favorite kills in a slasher movie. And one of them is my favorite kill in a slasher film, period, of all time. So, if you haven't seen Intruder, this is a lesser known one. But those who see it and like it, love it, they love it. And I am one of them. We have this night crew at a supermarket that's going out of business, that they're selling the business. And we have an abusive boyfriend of the main girl who comes in and starts causing trouble, and then people start getting picked off one by one. Awesome movie with amazing kills. So Intruder from 1989 in the number 5 spot. Number 4, Pieces from 1982. If you haven't seen Pieces and you're a slasher fan, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's on Tubi. Go watch it right now. Like, right now. No more video for you. Fuck you guys. Go watch Pieces. Hilarious. Like, hilariously bad. Like, another one is so bad that it's fantastic movies. But the gore in this movie, too, is fantastic. Like, we have a chainsaw-wielding killer on a college campus who is cutting apart women and taking pieces of their bodies. for something. That's all you need to know. And it has one of the most random random scenes in a horror film I think I've ever seen. Like, so random that it comes out of nowhere. And Eli Roth, this is his favorite film of all time. And like, I think it even says that on the Blu-ray or the DVD, whatever the latest release was. Like, Eli Roth's favorite film of all time. Say what you will about Eli Roth, he's got fucking great taste for this movie. Let me tell you. So, Pieces from 1982, number 4 for me. Number 3, we're getting to the nitty gritty here, guys. Number 3 is Blood Rage from 1987. Now, I had such a great time being able to watch this with Sean and Echo for Thanksgiving last year. Such a great watch party. And Echo never saw it. He ended up buying a copy, and he absolutely loved it. But one of the few Thanksgiving slashers that we have. We have Home Sweet Home, which is not that great. I don't care for it. And that's all I can really think of. There might be maybe one other. Then all we have is like the Thanksgiving movies with the stupid turkey, killer turkey. That's it. This is the Thanksgiving slasher film. Like this one right here, Blood Rage. So we have these two twins, Todd and Terry, who go to a drive-in with their mother who's not married, and she kind of seems like she whores herself out and sleeps with a lot of guys. And they end up leaving the car, and one of the kids ends up taking a hatchet and or a little axe, and axing this dude in the face in his car while he's making love to his girlfriend. And he just takes it and he hands it to his brother, the axe, and wipes some blood on his face, and he gets pinned for it and goes away for 10 years or so or something like that to a mental institution. And then he escapes, and there is a rage of blood. Blood Rage, man. My top 3, my number 3. Amazing. It is on Tubi. Check it out. Number 2. Opera by Dario Argento from 1987. This might be my favorite Argento film. Like I've said in the past in my Argento videos when I covered all his 70s and 80s films that I think I listed my top 3, but it changes a lot. Like it really does. Like between like 5 of his films rotate in and out of the top 3. This one's always in the top 3, and it might be my favorite. Like I think Suspiria and Deep Red are his best films, and they're definitely in my top 5. But damn, man, Opera is amazing. The whole premise for this is there's an opera of Macbeth that they're putting on, and the woman who's supposed to be in the production gets hit by a car, so our main character gets to make her debut and be in this Macbeth opera, and she ends up getting stalked by this killer who she doesn't know who it is, and every time he appears he ties her up and puts little rows of needles sticking up so she can't blink, so she has to look while he kills friends of hers and other victims. What a great idea, what an original concept, and just some of Argento's best work, and some of his best camera work in this movie too. So if you're an Argento fan and haven't seen Opera, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. Watch it. If you're not an Italian horror fan, this is a good one to start with. Like I'd say more Suspiria, but this is a good one. So if you want to hop into the world of Argento, watch Opera from 1987, which is, in my opinion, his last truly excellent film before his decline in the 90s moving forward. So get ready for number 1. My number 1 slasher film of the 80s happens to be my favorite slasher film of all time. And that is Friday the 13th, Part 4, The Final Chapter. Everything about this movie as a slasher film is absolutely perfect. The characters, the music by Harry Manfredini, the score. just, they had the feel of it. Ted White's performance as Jason, the kills, just, I can go on and on. This is my favorite slasher movie of all time, and this is obviously my favorite one in the series. But I know many people who this is their favorite in the franchise also, and I know a decent amount of people who also have this as their favorite slasher film of all time. And I mean, what more can you say about it? I can and did when I covered the Friday series. Here's my second Friday the 13th playlist plug. Go check out my Friday playlist and hear some more thoughts on the greatest slasher film ever made, in my opinion. But that is my top 30 80 slashers of all time. Did not expect it to go for an hour, but again, you're talking about 30 movies, so why not? Plus honorable mention. So to run through them quick, just the list I'll go through. Number 30, Blood Hook from 1986. 29, Absurd from 81. A Blade in the Dark at 28 from 83. Halloween 4 at number 27 from 88. Nightmare Beach, aka Welcome to Spring Break from 89 at number 25. 24, Happy Birthday to Me. 23, Stage Fright. 22, My Bloody Valentine. 21, April Fool's Day, which is coming up. 20, Motel Hell. 19, Tobe Hooper's The Funhouse. 18, The Mutilator. Number 17, Slumber Party Massacre 2. 16, Friday the 13th Part 2. 15, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Apologies. Number 14, Child's Play. Number 13, Don't Go in the House. Number 12, Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers. 11, Lucio Fulci's New York Ripper. Number 10, Dario Argento's Tenebrae. Number 9, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Number 8, Psycho 2 from 83. Number 7, William Lustig's Maniac. Number 6, The Burning. Number 5, Intruder from 89. Pieces at the number 4 spot. The number 3 spot, Blood Rage from 87. Opera by Dario Argento from 87 in number 2 spot. And my favorite slasher of all time and the number 1 spot, Friday Part 4, The Final Chapter. Thanks for tuning in and watching this, guys. I'm having so much fun doing these lists. The next one definitely will be shorter, but I have an idea for one. But I will be watching now Spiral, the Book of Saw, and 2 other movies that I'm not sure what they are. One I am, the other one I'm not. So, wherever you guys are from, hoping you're having a great night or morning or afternoon, whatever it is, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care, guys.